MHBN with Garage Talks episode 4. I'm here with Connor Westmoreland, Marcos Perez, Landon Myers, Brendan Bress, Chris Murphy, Ben Coggins, and myself, Andrew Baxley. Two quick updates before we get started with the show. Andre Clark was named the new offensive line coach. He replaces John Daly, who followed Coach Cab to Chapman. The other update is phase 1 of workouts will begin on Monday, which is just weightlifting and other conditioning. So that's good news that football is starting to come back, but we have no updates after that. It's just the phase 1 starts Monday. So we'll go ahead and get started here. Our first part is we're going to preview which will be week 3 of Malden's football season. The Mavericks will take on the Greenville Red Raiders, which has all the makings of one of the best matchups in Greenville County history, actually. Some of the biggest recruits, not just in the state of South Carolina, but in the whole country, will be facing off in this one. Malden, of course, their head coach, Sarah Neesmith, is in his first season. They were 6-6 last year, finished 4th in the region. They made it to round 2 of the 5A state playoffs. They play York week 1 at home, and then travel to Spartanburg week 2. Some of their top players is George Ford, a 2021 running back who's offered by Campbell. Jamison Tucker, a 2021 wide receiver who's offered by Army, ECU, North Carolina Central, and William and Mary. He's a 3-star, the number 14 player in South Carolina, according to 24/7 Sports. Randy Caldwell, a 2022 defensive back offered by Liberty and Ole Miss. And then Jaden Lucas, a 2022 defensive back, offered by Clemson, Auburn, West Virginia, Michigan State, Penn State, Ohio State, Ole Miss, Oklahoma, Georgia, Arkansas, North Carolina, Georgia Tech, Tennessee, South Carolina, Kentucky, LSU, App State, Duke, Virginia Tech, and Florida. And he is the number 2 player in South Carolina, according to 24/7 Sports. The last time these two teams faced off was the 2013 season opener at Greenville, in which Malden won 37-29. And then for the Greenville Red Raiders, their head coach is Greg Porter in his second season. They were 10-3 last season, finished first in their region. They made it to round 3 of the 4A state playoffs, where they lost to the eventual state champions, the Wren Hurricanes. They play Rock Hill week 1 and Wade Hampton week 2. Some of their key players, there's actually quite a few of them. One of their 2 quarterbacks is Andre Goodman, a 2021 quarterback who's committed to App State. He's a number 27 player in South Carolina, according to 24/7 Sports, and a top 20 dual threat quarterback in the country, according to ESPN. On the defensive side of the ball, they got Riggs Falconberry. That's a cool name in my opinion, Falconberry. But he's a linebacker. He has an offer from Wingate and Presbyterian, also Rochester. He's a big-time pass rusher. He's very active on special teams as well. He's capable of stopping the run, but when they do line him up at defensive end, that should be a point of attack for the Mavericks on offense. They also have J.Q. Jones, a 2021 defensive tackle who's offered by Campbell in his first season ever playing football. Another linebacker, they got Terrence Gist. He's offered by North Carolina A&T and Air Force. He's more of a true linebacker in the middle of the defense. He's a very hard hitter. And then their big name recruit, Colin Sadler, 2022 offensive tackle offered by Georgia, LSU, Arizona State, Clemson, Northwestern, Pitt, Duke, ECU, Penn State, Virginia, Michigan, Georgia Tech, Tennessee, Oregon, West Virginia, Liberty, Coastal Carolina, North Carolina, where his grandfather, John Schroeder, played wide receiver in the 1960s, App State, North Carolina State, Louisville, and Virginia Tech. He's 6'5", 295, and a number 4 offensive tackle in the country, according to College Football Today. And then back to the offensive side of the ball, their running back is Khalik Holland, 2022, who's offered by Campbell. He's more of an elusive back. Not to say that he's slow, which he's definitely not. He's just hard to tackle. He has good hands, and he's also a decent blocker, so a very all-around running back. Then they have Ashton Whitner, a 2022 defensive back who's offered by Liberty and Jacksonville State. And then finally, their second quarterback, Prometheus Franklin, He's a 2022 quarterback. He's more of the pro-style quarterback, so you'll see him throw the ball more while Andre Goodman will run it. But that's all the players. It was quite a lot, but that's all the players for Greenville that you need to look out. So we'll get started. We'll start with Marcos. Marcos, what are your thoughts on this game?
This is really Malden's first test in the season, especially with the new offensive line having to go against some of those great defensive linebackers that they have. So it's going to be really the toughest game. And although I do see us maybe winning this game, it's going to be really hard.
All right, up next, Landon.
This is going to be a fun game to watch, but at the end of the day, Greenville has a lot more talent than we do. I feel like Malden will be able to keep it close for a while, but eventually Greenville will pull it out.
All right, next up, we got Connor.
Well, unfortunately, I won't be able to actually watch this game right now, or this game in the fall, because I'll be in the great state of Alabama. But this is going to be an exciting game to listen to. Greenville and Malden haven't played each other, like you said, from 2013, and Greenville's always consistently had a great team in the 4A. It's a great 5A, 4A matchup, and I'm excited to see what Malden has in this it basically seems like 2022 big name recruits versus each other in this matchup.
All right, up next, Ben.
Yeah, and I mean, like we said, Malden's got a lot of talent, especially, a loaded defense, but our offense, there's no way our offense is going to be able to penetrate the defense, especially with guys like Riggs Falkenberry and J.Q. Jones on the other side. And on the offensive side, when you have a guy like Colin Sadler blocking for you, any running back's going to be able to do whatever they want to. And I think Malden can hold his own early, but in the end, Greenville just got way too much talent for Malden to be able to handle it. I got Greenville winning.
All right, up next, Brendan.
Again, like you said, Ben, their defense is just way better than any other defense that we'll have faced that far. And our offense, honestly, is a lot weaker than our defense, and they have such strong points on their defense that I believe that it'll be close, but they'll end up winning.
And then we got Chris.
Now, quick question before I give my analysis. Is this game at Greenville?
It's a home game for Malden, at Freeman Field.
So with that being said, the experience that Neesmith has coaching the defense, I think gives Malden a good shot, especially with this secondary that you have over at Malden. It's kind of flashbacks to my senior year watching Andrew Phillips and was it Jalen? Yeah, Jalen. Patrolling the secondary. So, I think with the I'm sure Neesmith will get this defense well prepared in advance to the season and coming into this game. Probably going to be a low scoring one. And, I remember my senior year we went to T.L. Hanna and played a team similar to this Greenville team as far as the amount of college prospects they had. And you kind of just got to hang around in a game like that, especially playing at home. If you can keep it close, anything can happen. So I think it's really gonna be up to these defenses so you can keep the points off the board.
Yeah, and I'll end it off. I'll basically just repeat what most of them said. We all have similar thoughts, but I think the main difference in it is I think it will come down a lot to the mentality level. If Malden beats Spartanburg in week 2, or if they lose, it's going to depend on – it's going to be a big challenge for Coach Neesmith, either coming off his first loss or, well, what we presume would be his first loss, or back-to-back wins. It'll be really it'll be a big test for Neesmith on how he'll be able to challenge his team to either bounce back or continue their hot streak. And Greg Porter will have the same challenge, either bouncing back or keeping the hot streak. So we'll see what these coaches are made of, but I think it will just come down to Greenville has more depth around their whole team. So I think I got Greenville in a close one. Well, I'll say 28-24 Greenville win it for that one. So we'll take a short break. We'll get Trey on the phone, then we'll come back with trivia. And we'll preview a little bit of Alabama football for the upcoming season. So we'll be back in just a quick second.
I'm gonna try to stick around for trivia though.
All right, and now we're back here, the Malden High Broadcast Network, episode 4 of Garage Talks. We got Trey on the phone now. We got Connor and Chris here with us. So we're going to start there. They all go to Alabama University. So we're going to do a little bit of Alabama football right now. We'll start with Connor. Connor, tell me the player you're looking forward to seeing the most in action this season.
Well, the player I'm looking forward to be for this season is Dylan Moses. He's returning. He had a torn ACL last season, and that was a huge defeat in the defense. So I'm looking forward to seeing him again this year. I know Tua Tagovailoa is gone, so we have Mac Jones and Bryce Young. Bryce Young's still the true freshman, so we'll probably see a little bit of him the second game. Not so much in the USC game, but the game I'm looking forward to the most is not the Georgia game. I know the Georgia game is going to be the hype around the whole season, but I think the USC game is really going to step forward for the Alabama season. I know Southern California is projected to be ranked 19, and then I know Alabama is supposed to be projected number 3. And so it's a top 25 matchup, and it's a neutral location, and this is going to be a whole different world for college football becoming in the fall with all this going on. So we're going to see a different Alabama team and a different Southern California team face off, and that's just going to set the tone for the rest of the season.
All right, next up, Trey. One player you're looking forward to seeing in action the most, and then the game you're looking forward to seeing the most.
Yeah, thanks for having me on today, guys. I hope those two clowns are treating you guys all right. Man, this year is gonna be pretty crazy. It's gonna be a lot different, but I like I like Dylan Moses. Like Connor said, it's gonna be great to get this defense back. But I think one guy that I'm really excited to see finally get a play is Trey Sanders, 5-star running back. Got hurt in the spring of last year. Didn't get to play a snap this past season. I think this whole offense is gonna continue to dominate. But these young kids like Sanders, I feel like are gonna really come in this year and help provide because they don't have a 2 on offense this season. The receiving core is not necessarily as potent as it was this past year, but it's going to be a quality group there. If we're talking groups, I know that might be coming a little bit later on. But I think Trey Sanders is going to be a fun guy to watch, and just the whole offense.
Mm-hmm. And then the game that you're looking forward to see the most?
Ooh, man. I'm going to say Texas A&M just because of the timing of that game. Yeah. It's one of the final games of the season, so at that point Alabama's going to have already played Georgia, LSU. They're going to have to already be preparing for Auburn, so it's going to be interesting to see if they can come out and play well in that game. It will be in Tuscaloosa.
Yep, and then lastly for Alabama, we got Chris, the player you're looking forward to seeing the most.
Well, coming into last season, I was really excited to see freshman Trey Sanders and kind of see a running back by committee with him and Najee Harris in the backfield. But he also suffered a preseason injury last year, actually in summer camp. So I'm really excited to see him. He's from IMG Academy. So I'm pumped to see him. We have Najee Harris coming back, so I'm sure they'll be splitting carries, and then it'll be his backfield a year from now. And then also, Connor mentioned Bryce Young, and the quarterback battle will obviously be interesting between Bryce and Mac Jones. I'm actually a big Mac Jones fan. I think he played really well. When Tua got hurt last year, played really well in the Auburn game. He threw the 2 pick sixes. The first one, horrible throw, inexcusable throw. But the second one kind of bounced off of Najee Harris and right into the hands of the defender. So I'm looking forward to see Mac play. I hope he can win out the job. And, it's tough starting a true freshman. It rarely works out, besides for your few cases, your Trevor Lawrence's.
Sam Howell.
Yeah, your Trevor Lawrence's, your Deshaun Watson's, your Johnny Manziel's. So, I'd like to see the veteran Mac Jones, and, he throws the ball well. So I think he can win the job.
Yeah, and then the game that you're looking forward to seeing the most.
Well, I think a big game in deciding that quarterback battle will be the Georgia game. I think Mac Jones will probably be the week 1 starter. And if he doesn't play well week 3 against Georgia, you'll probably see Bryce. You saw Nick Saban do this in the national championship game and the SEC title with Tua and Jalen. So I think that'll be a big game in deciding who the quarterback going forward is going to be. I'm pumped for that. That one's at home. So hopefully with all this coronavirus stuff, we'll be able to be at that game as students. But I'm also really looking forward, obviously, to the Iron Bowl. Everybody looks forward to the Iron Bowl, but to see how good LSU really is. We play on the road at LSU this year in November. So it'll be interesting to see losing Joe Burrow and a lot of guys on that offensive line and losing Joe Brady, just how good they're going to be this year.
Yeah, for sure. And then now we'll go into trivia. It's also about college football. So I got 5 questions and then one tiebreaker in case we need that. So we'll start with Marcos. First question here. What school is termed as the Mecca of college football in South Bend? Is it Indiana, Notre Dame, Wisconsin, or Ohio State? This is why we make Marcos go first.
Can you read the options again?
Read the options again. Do you want me to read the question again too?
Yes. Sure.
Which school is termed as the Mecca of college football located in South Bend?
Okay.
Is it Indiana, Notre Dame, Wisconsin, or Ohio State?
Indiana.
That's all right. Landon,
Notre Dame.
Brendan,
Notre Dame.
Chris.
Notre Dame.
Notre Dame.
All right, a clean sweep for everyone but Marcos again.
Tough
once
question
again.
there.
Not really a tough question. Well, I forgot Trey, but I assume Trey knows that one.
Yeah, Indy, come on.
Yeah. All right, second question here. In 2004, which player finished in second place in the Heisman voting and was the highest finish ever for a freshman? Is it Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush, Carson Palmer, or Adrian Peterson?
Adrian Peterson.
All right, Landon,
Reggie Bush.
Brendan,
Reggie Bush.
Chris.
Can you give me those choices again?
I can. Is it Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush, Carson Palmer, or Adrian Peterson?
I want to say Matt Leinart won it, so I'm going to go Reggie Bush as well.
All right, Ben,
Yeah, I got Reggie.
Connor,
It's Reggie.
and Trey.
Yeah, give me Reggie Bush.
All right. The answer is Adrian Peterson. Adrian Peterson, the highest finish ever for a freshman. Chris was right. Matt Leinart won it, and Adrian Peterson got second.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I'm pretty sure Reggie Bush was the year before. That's where I got the answer choices from. I know they came into the league around the same year.
I think Reggie Bush was earlier though. Anyways.
All right, question 3. What former Michigan wide receiver and kick/punt returner became famous before winning the Heisman? He is also well known for striking a Heisman pose after scoring a touchdown against Ohio State. Your answer choices are Desmond Howard, Charles Woodson, or Tim Brown. Marcus.
Desmond Howard.
Landon,
Desmond Howard.
Brendan,
Desmond Howard.
Desmond Howard.
Dez.
Desmond Howard.
and Trey. You got Dez as well.
Desi, yep, Desi.
All right. Question number 4 should also be an easier one. So question 5 will be the real tiebreaker. Which of these teams is not in the SEC, Marcos?
SEC?
SEC.
Okay.
Arkansas, South Carolina, Tennessee, or North Carolina?
North Carolina.
All right. We'll put everyone else down for that one as well. It's just a test remark. I gotta find some harder questions. We might have to do the tiebreaker anyway. This one won't be multiple choice. What is the name of the award given out each season to the nation's top college quarterback?
Nope.
Davey O'Brien.
Brendan.
Davey O'Brien.
Why are all these?
O'Brien.
I don't know why they gave me so many easy ones, but I think everyone else knew that one as well. But
The official name is the O'Brien Award.
well, his first name's Davey, so. All right, this one I know this one's not as easy. Sorry guys for the easy questions, but yeah, we are all tied.
Marcus.
Even tie, so we need the tiebreaker anyway.
That's the
He
only
did.
one, though.
All right, here it is, the tiebreaker and the final question. The player responsible
one
for
you
the
got.
most TDs in the BCS era.
Oh, BCS?
BCS era. So before the college playoff. Which player was responsible for the most touchdowns in the BCS era? All right, I'll get some answer choices.
That's tough.
Matt Leinart, who we talked about earlier, Heisman Trophy winner. Case Keenum, or is it last but not least Reggie Bush? Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart, or Case Keenum? Who was responsible for the most TDs in the BCS era?
Yeah.
Well, you are now because you're looking at your phone. So we'll start with Connor.
It's Case Keenum.
Trey,
Ooh.
do you need me to read the question again?
No, I got it.
Okay.
I'm gonna go. Sorry, I'm eating some French fries right now.
No, you're good.
I'm gonna say Reggie Bush. I'm just feeling him today, even though I was wrong on the first one.
All right, Brendan,
Matt Leinart.
Ben,
Case Keenum.
Landon,
Keenum.
and Chris.
I'm gonna go Matt Leinart.
All right, the correct answer is Case Keenum out of Houston. He was responsible for 178 touchdowns from 2007 to 2011. So Case Keenum. So we got,
Me, Connor, and Landon, right?
yeah. Do we need to find another tiebreaker?
Yes. Oh no, let's just let them all pick one.
No.
Let's see who can get the closest to how many touchdowns he actually. Oh, he said it.
You
I already
just
said it.
178.
Well, let's see if there's a different set on here.
Just make up something.
Let's do some kind of stat, and then we can get closest. I got a good idea.
What?
What is it?
How about we see how many non-Power 5 teams they can name? All right, so non-Power 5, they just go back and forth. You get 10 seconds to answer.
All right.
10 seconds to answer non-Power 5 teams.
Which mic are you using this one?
So just give them the mics.
All D1, right?
D1, no FCS. No FCS, has to be FBS, non-Power 5. Okay.
Anyone want to volunteer to go first?
I will. I don't care.
All right, Landon. Landon will go. Landon, Connor, and then Ben.
All right. Well, Houston.
Landon.
Boise State.
Wyoming.
I thought we were doing. I thought we were doing 10 seconds.
No, that's just
Oh, the first one done. Okay. You two can share the mic, and then I'll give Ben this mic.
All right. UCF.
Hawaii.
San Diego State.
USF.
Utah State.
Buffalo.
App State.
UCF.
I just said them. I said.
All right, so now
Georgia Southern.
Georgia State.
Georgia State's.
No, they're Sun Belt. Yeah, they're Sun Belt. They're Sun Belt.
Oh, Georgia State, not okay. UTSA.
we need an answer.
Yeah, I know.
Answer.
Good lord.
All right, he's out of time.
Is it sudden death or has been?
No.
UTEP. Even if I need another one.
Ben breaks Landon's streak of 2 in a row and
Yeah, we're going through the max teams.
claims the title for college football trivia.
Yeah.
Boise State's been.
I love Maction, baby. Thursday nights.
I could have gone. What's the one in Michigan that was really good a few years ago? Western Michigan.
Central Michigan.
Central. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I forgot about them.
Throw the boat, PJ Fleck, before he went to Minnesota.
Toledo.
Middle Tennessee. I said
No.
Is Coastal FCS?
No, Coastal's FCS. They're FCS. No, they're
They're
FCS. No, they're FCS. Yeah, because I remember they were. Did they get moved? Oh. I thought they were still FCS.
Hey, one for South Carolina. All right, so now we'll switch over. We'll stick with football still, but now we're in the NFL. We'll hand it off to Marcos and Brendan. What are we starting with? NFC South first?
We can start with NFC South.
You say we can't?
We can.
He said we can before his mic unplugged. So we're going to start with NFC South free agency. Marcos.
Well, there's a lot going on in the NFC South. Obviously, Tom Brady going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for what seems to be a pretty big deal in the NFC South. Drew Brees might not be the best quarterback in that division anymore. And it's going to be interesting to see. I know that Andrew's a Saints fan, so that kind of hurts. But Tom Brady working with his two great receivers in Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. And I could see him posting some of his best passing yards in years. What are you thinking, Ben?
I don't have anything.
You have nothing? Okay.
Well, you didn't even mention Gronk.
Well, I was going to kind of build up. But yeah, and Gronk. Of course. Gronk coming out of retirement, too. Oh.
Huh?
Yeah.
Oh, the Eagles for the NFC East.
Wait. No, like, what are you thinking about, like, how Tom Brady's going to do?
Honestly, I feel like Tom Brady's going to have a big year. He got back his favorite weapon, Gronk. And I feel like that'll help him. And they already have Mike Evans, who's another great wide receiver. And that wide receiving core is honestly way better than it was in New England last year for him. So he'll have a lot more weapons to throw to this year. So I feel like he'll have a good year.
And then the Carolina Panthers signing maybe their new franchise quarterback, Teddy Bridgewater, from the New Orleans Saints. We'll see how he does after losing Cam Newton. And getting him some weapons with Robbie Anderson from the Jets, who's a speedy guy. It's not the most physical, but if you get him going, he's a deep threat for sure. But is he the answer in Carolina? Or are they going to have to go draft someone else? What do you say, Brendan?
I feel like the thing was Cam had gotten hurt a few seasons in a row. So they were trying to get someone who hasn't had as many problems, who's hopefully going to be more reliable for them this year.
Teddy Bridgewater has had his injury problems, though, especially early on in his career.
But Teddy Bridgewater last year showed that he still has talent and is a great quarterback as he was playing for the Saints. I believe he didn't lose last year, right, Andrew?
He's undefeated,
Yeah, he was undefeated as a starter last year when Drew Brees was hurt. A really strong quarterback to bring in. But Cam Newton was their franchise for the past few years.
One
I'm surprised
MVP.
that they saw.
Yeah.
I'm surprised to see him go so early.
And oh yeah, of course, the Eli Apple, the cornerback, who just boasters that secondary, already having that first round talent a couple years ago. So also moving on, the Atlanta Falcons signing Todd Gurley to another pretty decent contract. We all know how that panned out with the Rams after signing that humongous contract. Didn't really work out with his knee injury. And Austin Hooper being let go, and instead they're trading for Hurts from the Ravens for a second-round pick, which is pretty big draft capital for a tight end, but especially for someone who hasn't been very productive. Mark Andrews really taking over that role in the Ravens. So adding weapons to Matt Ryan's already pretty big team, especially with Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones, I'm predicting that the Falcons are going to have one of the best offenses in the NFL.
Honestly, that entire division is amazing. As you said, Todd Gurley didn't have a great year last year, but I feel like this year he'll be doing pretty well because Matt Ryan will have a lot more options. They won't have to force the running game on him. Because I feel like he had a lot of running last year, and he'll have more balance this year.
Plus, they also have a new edge rusher, Dante Fowler, instead of Vic Beasley, who we all saw was one of the biggest busts of the Atlanta Falcons ever. And they almost paid him big money, too.
Well, fun fact about the Falcons' offense, as of right now, if you took their depth chart all 11 of their starters are former first-round draft pick
That's insane.
Former first-round draft picks.
That's actually insane. That's very solid. I did predict them.
First round doesn't always.
Yeah, that's true.
But
High expectations
they
there.
all had talent at one point.
Yes, of course. And then the Saints, obviously still consistent, great. Signing Jameis Winston as a backup quarterback. And Andrew's feeling a little passionately about his Saints. We'll let him ramble on a little bit.
Well, I wasn't prepared to ramble, but Brendan gave me the mic. But I was happy with our free agency activities. We got Emmanuel Sanders. That's probably the biggest acquisition we got. We kept Drew Brees. We re-signed him. We re-signed Taysom Hill. We also signed Winston. So there's no problems at the quarterback area if Drew Brees were to get hurt again this season. We got Jameis Winston, and if Jameis does Jameis things and throws interceptions, you can throw Taysom in there. But we lost A.J. Klein. We lost Eli Apple. We lost Ted Ginn. Those are some big holes that we'll have to fill, but we're a very experienced team. I think we'll be able to do it. We might not win the division because you got some talented teams. You got the Bucks and you got the Falcons, but we'll be in the playoffs. I can almost guarantee you that.
And also, the Saints have been looking for that number 2 receiver for a long time. I remember them bringing in Antonio Brown for a couple workouts last year, and they were also interested in who was that Cowboys player? Yeah, wide receiver.
Amari Cooper.
They were interested in Amari Cooper, but Des Bryant.
Des
Bryant. They brought him in for a couple.
We had Des for a while.
Yeah,
but didn't really work out.
They've been looking for someone to kind of go in there with Michael Thomas. It hasn't really worked out, so Emmanuel Sanders has proven his worth.
It's a very balanced offense like the Falcons had because you have Emmanuel Sanders, you have Mike Thomas, and then you even got Alvin Kamara at the running back position. He can do multiple things from the running back position. He can catch, he can run. Maybe not the power threat that we had with Mark Ingram a couple years ago.
True.
Definitely not the 2 running back threat. They're both very balanced. They did the complete opposite in terms of running, but Alvin Kamara is a decent running back, and he's only gaining more experience as he goes on.
For sure. And that's gonna do it for the.
Anyone else want to throw in anything?
I'd like to just take a minute to talk about Jameis Winston.
Oh God, here we go.
Now, everybody likes to hate on Jameis Winston because of the 30 interception season last year, which I understand. He turned the ball over.
It's a pretty big reason.
The crowd likes. But let's not, Jameis Winston, when he first came into the league, coming out of Florida State after winning a Heisman, winning a national championship, and also his last year there, going to the college football playoff, losing to Oregon, the famous invisible fumble that he had in the Rose Bowl. But Jameis Winston is a good player, and he just had LASIK eye surgery. This man threw 30 interceptions last year. He couldn't see.
Well,
this man, I think I heard that he, at one point, his eyesight was so bad it was illegal for him to drive.
He's also been training with other sports. Did you see the video of him doing the baseball turns?
Yeah.
So he's gonna have good hips.
He did play.
He's gonna have good hips.
He did play, but I think
with no eyes, he'll have good hips.
With the LASIK eye surgery, if Drew Brees goes down, if he has a little, small injury and they don't want to risk anything serious like they did last year with the thumb, Jameis Winston, because Taysom Hill is not the quarterback of the future. I don't care what Sean Payton says. Taysom Hill is not the quarterback of the future as much as he wants him to be. And Jameis on the 1-year deal, I think there could be good things ahead for Jameis with his new eyesight.
Well, we all know
he led the league in passing last year.
That is true. That is true, and he had 30 touchdowns, so that's very impressive.
I mean, when he was young, they were good. He played well, and the Buccaneers weren't bad when his first few seasons in the league.
They really weren't.
They were 7-9, 8-8, but from a rookie, and at that time, the Buccaneers were thinking this could be our franchise guy. It's not bad. I mean, honestly, as a rookie, you're going to win 6, 7, 8 games. I'll take that.
He's always been very inspiring. We all saw that speech with the W's, and I still feel inspired by that speech. And I think he does have that leadership quality that quarterbacks need.
Well, not to mention, you want to talk about speeches, not to get too much off on a tangent. If you haven't seen it, go look up the halftime speech he gave the year after he left Florida State. Florida State was playing Ole Miss in the first week of the college football season, and they were down, I think 28-0 at halftime, and he just tears in to like every player in their locker room and kind of hypes them up a little bit. You can look it up on YouTube, and Florida State came all the way back and won that game. So you're right, he does have that leadership quality, I think. The E to W speech was horrendous, but I think he does have that motivational and leadership quality.
Yeah, and he also has that confidence. A couple days ago, he said he was one of the best quarterbacks of this decade, and, well, I'll give it to him. He does have some pretty good stats, but he also has some pretty good interceptions.
I mean, it was when the funny thing was he had his press conference before the Bucs released him or didn't re-sign him, but he had a press conference with Bruce Arians, and he was saying to a reporter, he's like, "You look at my numbers, I'm balling." Like, he threw for 5,000 yards, threw for 30 touchdowns, but I mean, he threw a lot of passes to the wrong team, and threw a couple touchdowns to the other team. I think he had 8 pick sixes last year or something like that.
He did.
So yeah, 38.
When Jameis plays, we'll see how good the Saints offense is at tackling the other team. Hopefully they're better than the Bucs offense was at tackling the other team. But now we'll switch over. What do we got? NFC East?
Yeah.
NFC East.
So the Eagles, they lost Byron Jones, but they replaced him right away with Darius Slay, who's been a strong point for the Lions for the past few years. Great cornerback.
I'd say he's top 5. I mean, who do you put up in front of him? Like Jalen Ramsey, 1. Stephon Gilmore, 1. My bad. Jalen Ramsey, 2. Well, he plays safety, though.
Did you say DB or
Corner. I think he's just a man-to-man. He's a safety, but he's one of the best safeties, too. But, yeah, I mean, I think he's a top 5 in his talent, and I think he's going to get a lot of changes, a lot of interceptions there, especially on that scheme that they have.
Yeah, and then they also got Javon Hargrave.
Oh, yeah.
But I think the big thing for them was drafting Jalen Hurts, because they're a team that Carson Wentz hasn't lasted a full season yet. And last year, they pulled out, who was it again? A.J. McCown? Right? They pulled out
Josh McCown.
Josh McCown for the playoffs, who they pulled out a retirement. I think it was a high school football coach. And so they're really getting an upgrade in backup quarterback in a way more reliable Jalen Hurts.
We were talking about this earlier before the podcast began, and we think that Carson Wentz has been a good quarterback. Maybe he doesn't have the weapons that he needs, but he's reliable. He's consistent. We all remember his MVP caliber season a couple years ago. So it's pretty impressive what he can do. He has suffered from injuries, and he's one of the players known as injury prone. But once if you get a good offensive line around him, he can go the distance, in my opinion.
Yeah, and then for the Cowboys, they re-signed Amari Cooper. I believe they re-signed Ezekiel Elliott. They're still in talks with Dak Prescott. I'm not positive if he's signed yet, but they've had an ongoing deals with him.
The question with Dak is, he is a decent quarterback, but would you say he's top 10 in the NFL?
No, I feel like he's asking for a little too much.
You think
money.
he deserves the money he's asking for?
I think he was offered like $35 million for 5 years, but he wanted 4.
He reminds me of Kirk Cousins and the Minnesota Vikings deal, that he got a huge deal in Minnesota, but he really wasn't worth all that money, in my opinion. And Dak Prescott, I'd put him under Kirk Cousins. I'd say Kirk Cousins is better than Dak.
Yeah,
You
and
disagree?
the Cowboys also signed Andy Dalton to be a backup for him.
Good move.
I feel like they're trying to get a little bit more leverage with him than they ended up getting. Andy Dalton, of course, from the Bengals. He had been their starter for a while, but he just didn't really do much playoffs-wise. They never really make it far. They're more of a first round and gone. But he's had some decent years.
For sure. He used to have 12-4 seasons consistently, and he's won the AFC North a couple times, one of the hardest divisions with the Baltimore Ravens, Pittsburgh Steelers. So Andy Dalton is the definition of consistent in his early years, and then as he's dropping off, the Cincinnati Bengals just fell off super hard. That could be attributed to injuries. The offensive line has been terrible for him. So giving a new start, he could, if Dak Prescott and the Cowboys don't come to some sort of agreement, Andy Dalton might be a plugged-in player, and he could be the new franchise quarterback for a couple years while the Cowboys get their thing going.
So I'm gonna change the team a little bit. Is to the Washington Redskins. I'm actually excited to see them in the NFC East, just because under new head coach Ron Rivera, long time head coach of the Panthers, got a job immediately after being let go from the Panthers. Did a great job with the Panthers. Went to the Super Bowl but didn't win the Super Bowl. But still, but he just. The other 2 years he kind of had there just went downhill. It was just he just didn't have the team there, but they weren't healthy enough. So I'm looking forward to see the Redskins. I know they drafted Dwayne Haskins. They have Alex Smith.
Yeah,
but I'm anxious to see Dwayne Haskins come in.
Do you think he's living up to the hype? You think he's going to be a good quarterback in the NFL though?
I see him as more of a running quarterback at Ohio State.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Running quarterbacks in the NFL are very rare to see very good. I know. The best one we've seen in the past is Michael Vick, and then now Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is doing phenomenal, but you really have to have a solid offensive line to have a good running quarterback. So it's going to be interesting to see. Alex Smith is still there. He did decent with the Kansas City Chiefs, but we'll see how it does. But coming back from a serious injury, so
who? Oh yeah. I don't think – is he even going to play again? You think he's going to play again? I highly doubt he'll play again.
Well, and then now they have Chase Young at defensive end.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that just gives their defense a little bit of – and, Washington Redskins have always been in the bottom of the totem pole in the NFC East. It's always kind of been – they've just kind of been the sleeper team, and I think they're going to be kind of awakened today. I think it's just going to be them and the Eagles. So, I'm anxious to see what the Washington Redskins can do. They haven't really had a consistently good team in the past, and I'm willing to see them do good this year.
I mean, the big thing about the Redskins, they did cut Josh Norman, who was one of their main cornerbacks, and he had been playing a big role for them since he left the Panthers and went to them.
Okay, Josh Norman got the biggest contract a corner has seen back in 2016, only to be one of the biggest and worst mistakes of the Redskins ever. He's not really fast. He talks a lot of trash. And that kind of rhymed, too. And he's not really good, and I understand why they got rid of him. I'd say if Josh Norman ever becomes elite, I will buy 100 lottery tickets, and I will probably win the lottery because it's never going to happen. But, yeah, I mean, the Redskins, you could say, are a team on rebuild mode, Connor.
I mean, yeah, they had a good draft class. They really did. I mean, Thaddeus Moss from LSU, he might not start, but
didn't he go undrafted too?
I think he went undrafted, and that's Randy Moss's son.
Yeah, it's kind of insane.
He had a phenomenal year at LSU.
He did.
I'm anxious to see him too. So I mean, their offense is there. They're slowly building it up, and I'm ready to see what they can do. I mean, I think we're going to see a decent Redskins team. I don't know exactly what their schedule is, but I don't think they're going to win the East. I still think the team that's going to win the East is going to be the Eagles this year. I think.
Ooh, the
I
Eagles.
think it's going to be the Eagles.
I think it has to be the Eagles for Carson Wentz because he has to prove that
I don't
he's.
see the Cowboys winning it this year. I know you mentioned earlier about Dak Prescott. Is he that good of a quarterback? Should he get paid that much? I don't think he is. I think what I saw is his rookie year was great, but their offensive line was one of the best in the nation.
Yes.
So that's what plays part in a college quarterback. All NFL quarterbacks that get drafted from college, they're all good. They're all good. And so it's just bound to your offensive line. That's why they did so good with Dak Prescott. They had Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott in the backfield with a great offensive line, and they ran all over the teams. And then it just they started getting too expensive to hold that offensive line. They had to let a lot of guys go. So Dak Prescott, and I think the Cowboys are going to not have a great
Yeah, and I think he relies a lot on Zeke as well.
And the Giants, they got some.
And it will depend a lot on if they do eventually sign Dak, or if he decides to hold out, how long he holds out for. Do they play each other week 1 or they usually play each other early?
Really early.
Here, I'll look
but
it up.
The Redskins play the Eagles.
Okay, so they have to play early.
They might play the
Here,
Giants,
I
though.
got it.
And then with the Giants, they are a young team. The Giants are a young team. Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, and Chris wants to say something.
Well, continue what you're doing, and then I'll chime in.
All right.
at the
Well,
end.
they're a young team, kind of on the rise, have some young talent. Saquon Barkley, I think he's going to be one of the best running backs for years to come. Daniel Jones, who many thought was one of the worst picks of the NFL draft last year, has proven to be solid. And
Well, when he holds on to the ball, it doesn't.
I know he does have a fumbling issue.
That wasn't really the issue.
Yeah.
I'll address the fumbling. I'll address it.
And Shepard's also, he's a decent wide receiver, so they have the talent there. The defense, I would say, is pretty terrible. I'm not gonna lie. Their secondary is not good. Jabril Peppers going to the Giants last year made it a little better, but I'm not gonna say, wow, I'd take the Giants defense over anybody right now. That's something that's not coming out of my mouth anytime soon. So I think they have issues on the defensive side of the ball. And the offensive line, I think, also struggles mightily protecting Daniel Jones. And that really makes his numbers fall off and fumbles occur quite often. But those are rookie mistakes. A lot of rookies have fumbling issues, especially they have to just learn how to get the ball off quicker. So I think they're on the rise. In a couple of years, maybe they'll win the division, but not next year.
I think the Giants will be the most improved team in the NFL next year. You might call me a little biased for saying that. But here's the thing. One, I'm going to talk about Daniel Jones and the fumble issue because I hear about it all the time. I tell people I like Daniel Jones. And I'm going to tell you this right now. I'd rather my rookie quarterback have a fumble problem than an interception problem. Okay? He's making the right reads on the field. He's making the right decisions when he's throwing the ball. And it doesn't help that his offensive line has stunk. The Giants' offensive line hasn't been good since 2012 when they won the Super Bowl last. And even then, that offensive line was a little questionable. So, Daniel Jones, I think, is going to be fine. The fumbling problem is a very easy fix. If you have a guy like a Sam Darnold, his counterpart playing for the Jets, that's throwing, 17, 18, 19, 20 interceptions a year, which he did that at Southern Cal, too.
But that's also his offensive line. Like,
But
he had
did
one
it
of
at
the
Southern
worst
Cal.
offensive
He
lines.
did it at Southern Cal, too.
That is true.
And that's why I went that year when the Giants drafted – that was the same draft as Saquon Barkley,
Yeah.
correct? Sam Darnold I was not sold on once because I watched him play at Southern Cal, and he always had that interception problem. So, and that's a tough thing to fix for a quarterback, especially in the NFL with the level of play that you see in these – with these defenses. The offensive line, they drafted heavy offensive line this past year, and I think they drafted 3 offensive linemen. Andrew Thomas from Georgia, which I think is a perfect fit. I would have either wanted to have him or Jedrick Wills. Jedrick Wills more of a pass blocker, does really well in pass defense, protecting the quarterback. He did really well at Alabama, and then Andrew Thomas, I think was a 4-year starter for Georgia.
Yeah, I think he was too.
And you see what they were able to do running the ball at Georgia the 4 years he was there. So any offensive line product coming from an SEC school where you have these power running teams is a great pick. And I think Andrew Thomas was the perfect fit to get in the first round, and they drafted the O-lineman from Oregon. And they drafted, I think, an offensive lineman from UConn, all guys who were 3- and 4-year starters. So it's guys who have a lot of experience playing those positions. I just think that I think we're going to have to switch some of them around depending on the openings and holes we have in our offensive line. The biggest question mark is the defense. Everybody is worried about Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley's health and the offensive line. The Giants' defense last year was atrocious.
It really was.
It was like half of them were rookies or second-year players. They were just – that's the biggest question mark, and that's the biggest thing that they need to see improvement on. And that's the thing. They haven't really done anything this offseason free agent-wise, which is disappointing. They had a lot of cap space. I think Jadeveon Clowney's still floating around, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. There's word that he's going to go to the Seahawks, but that can't be confirmed. So
I heard that the Browns were thinking about offering him.
I think they did offer him, and he rejected the offer.
Oh, okay. Well, I'd love the Giants to just give Jadeveon Clowney a blank check. Just give him a blank check for 4 or 5 years. We have all the cap space. Just do it.
Yeah, that's true.
We have all these young guys on defense that they're going to try to develop. We need a pass rusher. I mean, you look at the teams that are super successful. A lot of them either have, a shutdown defensive back or a good pass rusher.
And in the NFC East, some of the best defensive line talent, the Cowboys with Dexter Lawrence, who has been a machine on that line, and then Chase Young coming off, number 2 overall pick, he's going to be a huge impact. So Daniel Jones, he has some people he has to worry about.
Yeah, but the NFC East isn't the strongest division, arguably the weakest division in the NFL. So it's really anybody's.
It
division.
is really anybody's game.
I mean, you looked at last year, the Eagles with all the injuries they had no business winning that division and going to the playoffs. So, and the Cowboys roster-wise
have the best.
Have probably a top 5 roster talent-wise in the NFL. I mean, the talent they have on offense and defense is insane, and I mean that's why they had to get rid of Jason Garrett because he wasn't producing. And it'll be interesting to see with Mike McCarthy just how well they'll do. And I'm going to contradict your earlier statement. I think Carson Wentz is a good quarterback. Can't stay healthy. They finally got him some weapons. And also, I think Dak is a top 10 quarterback in the league. He's probably the 10th best quarterback in the league. But I think he's a top 10 quarterback in the league. And guys like that, you kind of just have to pay him if you want to hold on to him. All these teams struggle to get a franchise quarterback, and if you get one, you kind of just got to pay him what he wants.
That is true.
Or else you're going to lose him. So I think the best thing for the Cowboys is to give Dak Prescott whatever he wants for however many years and the price he wants if they want to hold on to him. Because I think he's a great player, as much as I hate to say that about the Cowboys. He's a phenomenal player.
Yeah, I think, and you could show in his worth ethic, but now we're going to have to move on to the NBA. So here come Andrew and Ben.
All right, and now, if you don't know by now, the NBA is returning soon. They're going to have the 22 teams that return. The teams, here, let me find the list of the teams. We'll just read that right quick. Okay, so you got Celtics, Nets, Mavericks, Nuggets, Rockets, Pacers, Clippers, Lakers, Grizzlies, Heat, Bucks, Pelicans, Thunder, Magic, 76ers, Suns, Trailblazers, Kings, Spurs, Raptors, Jazz, and Wizards. Each team's going to play 8 games, and then they will determine who goes to the playoffs. The 8 and the 9 seed will have a little play-in tournament for the 8th seed. So we'll just do this a little bit quickly. We'll just do overall predictions, not necessarily really specific, but I'll start with Ben. What are your overall predictions? A couple teams and games that you're interested in looking to.
I mean, yeah, we touched on the NBA a good bit already. What our predictions were for the rest of the season. Obviously, that didn't include everybody. That just kind of included the guys that were already set for the playoffs. But, I mean, obviously both me and you predicted the Clippers to take the NBA championship, and then Landon picked the Lakers, I believe. Yes. I'm just really excited for those playoffs. I mean, obviously the play-in games, the rest of the regular season, that's going to be interesting to watch. But in the end, I think we all know it's going to happen. I'm just really excited for that LA battle to happen in the playoffs.
Yeah, one thing before I get off to Landon, that I said last week, I think it's a conspiracy, the way that Adam Silver did this 22 teams just to get Zion into the playoffs. And
Yes.
one fact, it's not questionable. This is a fact. The Pelicans have the easiest remaining schedule, and the team in the 8th seed right now, the Grizzlies, have the hardest remaining schedule. If that doesn't say that they only want Zion in the playoffs, that's why they have this. And I don't know what you're thinking right now.
I agree with what you're saying with that, but at the same time, I'm not mad about it. I'm pretty glad that Zion now has a good chance of the playoffs, mainly because what he does in these playoffs is really going to tell you
He's
the
going to
difference
produce views. That's
if
what he's
going
going
to
to
be
do.
more LeBron sided or MJ sided. I'd like to see him make it to the playoffs and see if he can lead the Pelicans to go through the playoffs, make it deep. Maybe I still don't think Zion's going to be able to beat an LA team, really, with his main help being Lonzo and Julius Randle and all of them. But I want to see how far he can get him in the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm gonna be excited to watch Zion in the playoffs because obviously he's such a big player just all around, just because of the fan base, what he used to do in high school and college. He's gonna be a fun player to watch out for. As Andrew said, the easiest schedule, so it will be fun to see if he can lead the Pelicans to the playoffs. And
I think at worst they'll make the play-in tournament. They'll be the 9
8 and 9
seed.
tournament.
Yeah, the 8 and 9 tournament.
They should be able to get the 9 tournament.
But then they would have to beat the Grizzlies twice, while the Grizzlies would only have to beat them once. So
well, that's kind of
it's weird, but
yeah, but still makes sense. But I'm still again the LA battle, which everyone's kind of predicting that for the Western Conference final, even though they're not even having based off conference. They are still having based off conference.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, well, still Battle of LA, even though they wouldn't be they wouldn't be traveling anyways, but Staples Center. That's gonna be because
everything's in Orlando.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Everything's in Orlando. But
they don't play in the first 8 games, but they'll most likely play in the playoffs.
Yeah, most likely. But then again, I'm just excited because, in my opinion, Lakers and Clippers right now are the 2 best teams in the NBA. Because Lakers led by LeBron and AD, Clippers, Kawhi, and PG. So I'm just excited to see what those 2 teams will bring to the table up in Orlando, and then see how well the Bucks. Because I feel like they'll be able to get to past the Eastern Conference pretty easy, other than the 76ers. So
yeah, and then I'll give my thoughts as a Thunder fan, but I think our main schedule, it's not too difficult. I predict we'll go 5-3 at best. I think we'll get the 4 seed. We'll beat out the Jazz, and then we'll have to play we play the Jazz to start it off, and then we play the Lakers twice. The Jazz have all those chemistry issues with Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell. We'll see how they get along, and if the Jazz decide to play Rudy Gobert, I think it was Donovan Mitchell that said he did not want to play with Rudy Gobert. So chemistry issues are a big issue for the Jazz, but that's the matchup I'm looking forward to the most in our season reopener. I think if we win that one, we'll be the front runner for the 4 seed, considering we're only 1 game back of the Jazz right now. But I think the Pelicans will make it into the 8 seed. I think basically everything will stay the same. I think the Thunder will move into the 4, and then the Pelicans will get the 8, and the Grizzlies will get the 9, and then that play-in tournament will be a really fun one to watch.
It's going to be interesting to see what Chris Paul is going to be able to do, because we saw all the stats, because he went to the Western Conference Finals with the Rockets, and then it wasn't past the second round with the Clippers when he played with them. So I think what we see, because this time
we'll see if he can get the I don't know what the term is, but something off your back.
What? I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Anyway.
I don't know.
Pressure. Anyway, because I think even because this year he's what? This year I feel like in LA when he was there, I feel like Blake Griffin was the leader in the playoffs and DeAndre Jordan. Then
it's monkey.
I feel like they were. I don't even know what y'all talking about.
Monkeys off our backs.
Get the monkey off your back, like with Chris Paul trying to make it past the second round.
Yeah.
And oh my God.
Okay.
You're the one that said no.
Well, wait, because I feel like this, because this time he's going to be the leader go around. Because I feel like in LA, Blake Griffin was the leader, and Houston, James was the leader. So it's going to be interesting to see, because he has done a lot better than pretty much anyone has expected.
I think just making the playoffs is good for the Thunder with a very young team. And then we got a lot of the draft picks coming in. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, any experience we can get him in the playoffs, that'll be much needed for him and his growth. Chris and Connor, you want to say anything on the NBA?
I'm actually looking forward to the Portland Trailblazers. My brother's a big fan of it, so he always talks highly of it. I know Damian Lillard's coming back, and it's up in the air if Carmelo Anthony's going to join during this season or during this time. But I think they have the Grizzlies, Rockets, Mavericks, 76ers, Celtics, Nets, Lakers, and Heat. It's a kind of a 50-50 schedule. I know. I mean, the Lakers, I think are going to win the whole thing. I mean, I don't think they're going to be stopped. but most of those teams are actually easy to get. So I think they're definitely going to make the playoffs, the 16-team playoff. And I'm anxious to see how they're doing it. I mean, because I know there's no Western. I mean, a Western team can play a Western team in the finals, and that's what I liked about this. And it's going to be very interesting to see these. Yes. So it's going to be very interesting to see this new playoff system, and I'm actually anxious to see how it actually kind of like crossroads with football season, because I know the NBA finals are going to be during the first weeks of college football and the first weeks of the NFL. So we're going to see how much that really takes. It is the same as always. Okay, I thought it was the West versus West. But we're going to see the teams just cross, or the two. The ratings. I don't know how they're going to look, because I know the NBA finals have actually had tremendous ratings in the past, and I know the Warriors trilogy, or the 4 times in a row, Warriors versus Cavaliers, I know it's gotten tremendous ratings. So we'll see how this goes with the first week NFL and college football. Chris?
Yeah, I think the most interesting thing is just going to see how well these players play coming off such a long break, and such a weird break with the coronavirus. I think it gives a little bit of an advantage to these veteran players, like your LeBrons, your Kawhi Leonards, and, even though Giannis is young, I just think that team in Milwaukee is a lot deeper than most of the teams in the East. During the season, I probably would have said the Clippers and the Celtics would probably make the finals. I think Jason Tatum's doing a lot of good things.
Oh, yeah.
Kemba Walker, but he had his injuries. Yeah, and he's had his fair share of injuries this year. But Jason Tatum has played like a top 5 player, with Kemba Walker being out. I'm interested to see who comes off this break. I feel like some guys could come off it better, and some teams could come off it better. You get guys that are banged up and may not have been ready for the playoffs. So you're probably going to be at full strength and healthy. But it's going to be weird, and that's kind of why they put in those first 8 games to kind of let everybody get back into the swing of things.
Yeah.
But Connor, to your point, talking about having the NBA Finals in October, we missed out on March Madness this year, but with the NBA coming back and the NHL coming back, and all these sports are going to be happening at the same time, you're going to have so many sports just on all the time.
Yeah, I
during the
remember it was
week.
September 20th was supposed to be. It was going to be PGA Tour. There was one of the, I don't remember which championship it was, but it was one of those.
We got 3 majors in
Yeah,
in 2 months.
and then you got the NBA Finals, the MLB playoffs. You got all those.
You think the MLB is coming back?
No,
It's unlikely.
well, it's unlikely because of like the players.
The players in the league can't agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they've put out a couple offers.
Yeah, Rob Manfred's trying really hard.
It seems like
Well, Rob Manfred confirmed that it was coming back last time.
Really?
Yeah, but he was just
all-star.
I
I feel like if they don't bring a season this year, the MLB is gonna hit it hard. Like they're gonna go down.
well, that's the thing. I think is with the NBA confirming a date, and the NHL came out with their playoff format. The NFL announced that teams can return and start training camp on July 28th. Puts a lot of pressure on baseball. They kind of have to figure out a deal in the next few weeks and figure out the logistics of it. I think that you'll probably see baseball. It'll most likely be a 50-game season is what it seems like, and the players aren't going to be happy about it. They kind of wanted more, closer to 100, maybe 80 games. But, I mean, at this point, they need something, because they're always talking about growing the game and how during the regular season they don't have ratings and stuff. Like, nothing's going on right now. Why would you not want to try and get back and, throw your name in the hat and try and get all those ratings?
Have a season would not be a good way to grow the game.
Right, exactly. And
Well, and you also have teams just, playing, like the NBA is playing in July, into July, going into September and October, which is an unusual time for the NBA to play. If all goes well, are they going to resume their season in November like they usually do? That's just a quick turnaround from what they usually do. So the NBA and the MLB and the MLB, I don't see that returning until the next spring.
And I'll let you go. I'll say this real quick. the challenge with baseball is that the home markets of all these teams, the local broadcasting networks make so much money, and that's kind of a big part of the money made in baseball is from these local networks that broadcast the games, the radio and television. So they, the NBA and the NHL and all these sports are having like host cities or like hub cities where they're all going to quarantine and stuff. The challenge with baseball is that they're all going to play in their home ballpark, and they're just going to have no fans, and they're going to have to quarantine and travel, and they're restructuring the divisions and all that stuff. But that's one of the bigger challenges is if they finally agree on something to come back, is they're going to have to figure all that out.
More agreements that they're having trouble with. All right, so now we'll do the PGA Tour real quick. Our last segment, PGA Tour with Ben and Chris.
Yeah, and the big story here, the PGA Tour returned yesterday with the Charles Schwab Challenge, and the big story is it's such a strong field. It's something you usually don't see. Charles Schwab, one of the smaller events on tour most years. This is a ridiculous field, likes of Spieth, DeChambeau, Schauffele, McIlroy, all near the top. Really, the only big name you can think of that's not in this field is Tiger Woods.
Yeah, and all these guys came out firing.
Yes.
They really didn't miss a beat. The break didn't seem to phase a lot of them. Phil Mickelson actually surprised me the other day. He played a good round on Thursday. And Justin Thomas, Roll Tide, Alabama guy, he played well yesterday as well. But Jordan Spieth really surprised me. We really haven't seen him play this good of golf.
Yeah,
really even in
he's
just
looking like prime Jordan Spieth. We
Yeah.
haven't seen that in a few years.
Exactly, and we haven't seen him play a round of golf, let alone, forget about putting together a whole weekend in 4 solid rounds. You haven't really seen him play a round of golf like this, and he's done it on back-to-back days. And Harold Varner has been a great young golfer the past few years, and it's good to see him finally posting numbers because he's been so close to that first tour win so many times.
He's been near the top pretty much every time he played, and he's one of those guys that you always see him in the top 10, but you never really see him grab that win. And I'm hoping this is the week he does it.
Yeah, and it's one of the few sports on this weekend. So, I'd take the time. I watched a little bit. There was that hole-in-one on Thursday.
Yep.
And all these guys are really just being really aggressive and playing entertaining golf. And some people may not really see it as an entertaining sport, but you can learn about it a little bit and give it a shot when nothing else is on. And right now all these guys are posting low numbers.
Exactly. Yeah, this is Colonials, of course, a lot of these guys can tear up, and we're seeing some low numbers out there. I mean, Rory McIlroy with around a 63 today.
Yeah, he played out of his mind today. Jordan Spieth was also 7 under at one point.
Yeah, and then he had the 4-putt double bogey. That was
right, and that's the Jordan Spieth we've been getting used to seeing recently. But
DeChambeau's tearing it up right now. He's 5 under through 16.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about Bryson DeChambeau is in the past 12 to 18 months, he's put on a lot of weight and become a lot stronger. I saw a side-by-side of him from I think it was 2016 or 2017, and then him the other day, and he looks like he went from being kind of like this tall, lanky guy, and he looks like he could go play football right now. The dude is yoked.
Yeah.
Took some shots at Brooks Koepka earlier this season and last season, but it'll be interesting to see. I hope this leaderboard stays tight. Mm-hmm. And I always love watching a playoff on a Sunday when you have 2 or 3 golfers tied. So there'd be no better way to get a little more hype around the PGA Tour than to see that this weekend.
Yeah, and like we touched on, Harold Varner right now holding the 1-shot lead on Jordan Spieth and Bryson DeChambeau, and then tied at 9 under. There's currently 3. It's Colin Morikawa, the second-year golfer now. When Matthew Wolff won his first event, Colin Morikawa was right behind him. Just extraordinary young golfer. You think about Matthew Wolff, but Colin Morikawa, he's got an incredible future out of him. And then Xander Schauffele and Rory McIlroy right with him.
He's the same age as Matthew Wolff.
Yeah, they both came out of college at the same time.
They didn't go to the same college, did they?
No, Matthew Wolff went to Oklahoma State. I'm pretty sure Morikawa went to It was somewhere in California.
There
I
was-
think it was Cal.
There's another
think it was
Oklahoma
Cal Berkeley.
State golfer I think that came around the same time as Matthew
Yeah.
Wolff. I can't remember
What's
his name.
Victor Hovland.
Yes, Victor Hovland. That's who
Victor
it is. yeah.
Hovland was near the top of that tournament too, the 3M Open.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of guys that are you may not recognize at the top of this leaderboard, but it's a young group of guys for the most part, and that's what we've seen on tour the last few years is the young guys kind of taking a hold of the sport, and it's really anybody's game as far as week in and week out. Who's got the best shot at winning these tournaments, and then the FedEx Cup. Once you get into the playoffs, it's kind of anybody's game because everybody stays so tight on that leaderboard.
All right, so we'll go ahead and wrap it up with our predictions for this weekend. Obviously, Bryson DeChambeau hasn't finished yet, so we don't know where he's going to end up. But go ahead and give your prediction. I got the leaderboard on my phone right here, so you can go ahead and look at it and give your prediction for this weekend. Who you think is going to take it?
I like Xander Schauffele a lot. He's a great golfer. Rory McIlroy, I think, is an obvious choice. I'd probably have to go him. This might be a little bit of a homer pick. Justin Thomas played a good round today. Shot 600 yesterday, 200 today. Seeing Justin Rose, he's still out on the course right now. He's at even par through 16 holes. He's at 7 under. If you're anywhere within that 5 to 4 shot range going in the weekend, you have a shot. I'd look out for Justin Rose. I'd look out for Xander Schauffele. Rory McIlroy, I'm sure, will be in the mix as well. But I think if I had to pick, I'd probably say Rory or Bryson. I mean, Bryson played really good golf last year, and Rory was the best player on tour last year.
Yeah, and what I'm interested to see is how aggressive is Harold Varner going to be tomorrow on moving day.
Right.
Good chance that he's going to hold the lead going into Saturday. So if he plays a laid back round of golf, tries to stay around where he's at, I don't think he has a great shot to win this one. But for me, my odds-on favorite, it's got to be Rory or DeChambeau. The two, they're the best closers at the top of this leaderboard.
Right.
They know how to finish a tournament, and they've been doing it a lot. If it's and then other than that, I think JT's got a great shot. I think if I had to pick one, I'm gonna go with DeChambeau just because he's tearing it up today. He's looking great. Obviously, Rory tore it up today too, but DeChambeau, he's been looking really good this week. He knows how to win a golf tournament, so I'm gonna go with DeChambeau.
Yeah, and I just leave Justin Rose as my dark horse.
I agree with that.
The Englishman.
If I had to pick a dark horse, I'm gonna go with Gary Woodland. He obviously won the U.S. Open last year, battled out Brooks Koepka and was able to take it. Another guy who knows how to win a golf tournament. So my dark horse is Gary Woodland.
Okay. Andrew, we'll let you take it away.
All right. Well, we thank Connor and Chris for coming out tonight, and we also thank Trey, who's on the phone with us. A couple MHBN alumni. We'll have 3 more next week. We'll have Spencer, Aiden, and Jack. They'll be with us, and then that's gonna wrap it up here for episode 4 of Garage Talks. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at MHBN20, on Instagram MHBN_20. Check out our merch. The pictures of what it looks like, the prices, the information on how to buy, it's all on there. So give us a follow. Check out the merch. This will be on YouTube tomorrow. If you missed any part, make sure to go back and watch it. Subscribe to us on YouTube, and we'll see you next week.